I won't deny it, I'm a Southsider. You don't wanna mess with me. Got the police looking for me. But I'm calm cause I'm smoking that CBD. Said I won't deny it, I'm a Southsider. You don't wanna mess with me. Got the police looking for me. But I'm chilling in the back of the VIP. Said we won't deny it, we are Southsiders. You don't wanna mess with us. Got the police looking for us. And there's nothing that they can do. Cause we're chilling with the Blessed Life podcast crew. What's up, what's up, what's good? Coming to you on a Sunday. Tomorrow is Monday. And we want to get you ready for the week ahead. And just check in on you. I'm attorney Brian Tierney. This is the Blessed Life University podcast, the BLU podcast for short. We're going to be talking about today our weekend that we just had and the UFC fights last night and a few things in between. Here with me to talk about that today is Captain Matt Thomassen, captain in the United States Army and attorney at Thomassen and Tierney, attorneys at law.
Glad to be here as always. Much appreciated. Yeah, so let's get into it, man. Got a lot to talk about from this weekend's activities. A lot of activities have occurred, and just going to tell the people all about it.
Yes, sir. We'll start it from the start, and we're sitting here today. I'm like alcohol-free way to be. I did Sober October, but I do an extended version where I go all the way up to St. Patrick's Day, so I won't be drinking again until the Fighting Irish come back for around St. Patrick's Day.
That's gonna be a good day. It's gonna be pretty lit, I imagine.
If you see me drinking on the podcast, it's usually non-alcoholic beers. If it's from October to March, it's a non-alcoholic beer. And you know what? It's very refreshing because I'll tell you what. You know, we talked about this before. We'll probably mention this. Going on, is that the effects of lack of sleep alone make me feel like I'm hungover. Like, I felt like shit today.
Yeah.
I feel inflammation in my eyes, in my face, in my mind, in my body.
Half of a hangover is just sleep deprivation, basically, is what I've come to realize. At least that's what it feels like.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And what did I do today? You know, I got up, and when I headed over here, I got coffee, and that helps. Whatever it is about the caffeine seems to like relieve this pressure that I have in my head. And I know part of that might be withdrawal from not having caffeine, but it is what it is. Like, it helps me to function. And, but this morning, it's a bad day and that you haven't slept well in a couple of days, which for me it's been 2 days, when a coffee won't even do it. It won't fix the problem.
Yeah, you need that little extra pick-me-up.
Well, it gave me some temporary relief for like an hour. And the thing about me is, here's another thing. What I've realized is that a lot of these coffees that are out there are really high in caffeine. So the rankings that I read in like a news article was that Starbucks is the number one for caffeine content. They're a very strong coffee.
Yeah.
I know it too because in the times where I have drinking Starbucks, I'm kind of jittery. I feel like I'm on a high afterward, and not in a good way.
It's too much, caffeine aside, I just find their coffee to be a bit bitter. That's why I prefer Dunkin. It's a little bit less of just a hit to the palate. Like, I just have never really been about Starbucks. Unless I'm really dragging ass, then I'm like, oh, I need to pick me up. Maybe I'll go with that Starbucks. Usually I don't even, if I'm in a bad way, kind of like, hey, on this morning, I was up till 3 a.m. last night. And I, of course, still drinking. I never stop. Big surprise. So
I appreciate it.
I'll quit drinking when I die. So, like, I'll quit eventually. And dude, respect for you for having the mental fortitude and dedication to actually like withhold from consuming alcohol for so long. You did it last year, and I have no doubt you're going to do it again this year. So props to you, man. But I'm just, I don't know, maybe it's a Wisconsin thing. Like, we're Wisconsin, beer and booze, we're just, it's baked into our DNA. So there's no giving that up, at least for me. But it's just, I don't know, but about the caffeine and stuff, like, I like I kind of go with the Monster, that 0 calorie stuff, because, a lot of that stuff, like with the Red Bull, it'll power you for a while until you get that sugar crash. You'll have like a diabetic coma onset. You'll get the energy. You'll be like, ooh, yes, energy, freaking red line, getting after it. Then all of a sudden the sugar crash will hit, and you'll be like, oh God.
We made
and
a
now
couple.
I'm going to sleep.
You made a couple of points there, and one is with the bitterness of the Starbucks coffee. That's the main thing I don't like about it. I mean, it's extra roasted to the point where it's like a burnt flavor, and it's one of those things where it's like all right once in a while in small doses for me, but like usually when I'm feeling like I need that pick me up, the taste alone like grosses me out a little bit, where I start like coughing and stuff because I'm getting acid reflux because it's so bitter that like it offsets the benefits I get from the high caffeine content. And even then, and then it makes me feel more dehydrated. I'm like, Jesus, I just drank this coffee and I'm already peeing, but I need to drink more water now. It's a weird thing. But in terms of, you know, not drinking, like, I feel a lot better for it. And I couldn't imagine, you know, right now feeling the same effects that I'm feeling of the sleep deprivation, but also adding in on top of it your body trying to recover and process out, you know, poison and the need to rehydrate and stuff. It's tough, man. And the thing is, I think you're what, 34?
Yeah.
34 years old. I'm 38, and mine's a hard 38. It's not like you know, I've
38.
Yeah, I've taken my liver on the expressway a bunch of times and like kind of maxed it out, right? Like I'm hitting the red, and so I'm that kind of 38, and so you know I'm glad that those days are behind me, but you know. I wouldn't want to test it much more. I feel better without drinking. Like, don't get me wrong, I have fun, and it's nice to feel that buzz, especially when you're around people. It just kind of makes you so socially, you know, involved and fun. But I can do the same thing without it, man, and just not have to feel those feelings the next day. Because for as much, you know, tolls if I've taken on my body already, I just don't really need to do that anymore. And the feeling's not that good where I'm willing to make that trade anymore for my health over alcohol.
Well, yeah, I know what you mean, man.
Or for my alcohol over my health, I mean.
For me, it's dependent. Like, I don't mind, you know, going hard, drinking a lot, if I don't really have to be productive the next day. But it's like with the nature of this business and all the things we're involved in, it's like we're always got something to do the next day. So it's just there's a cost to it. So I try not to go, you know, I really don't go as hard as I used to. I go a little hard on drill weekends. Don't we all? But and that's when it really sucks. So and it's not so much like I said, it's not so much just the alcohol consumption for me, it's the lack of sleep. Like I cannot do, like, really 2 a.m. is my cutoff. Like I cannot do really 3-4 a.m. nights anymore. Where
and we used to do them.
And we used to, and when you have to be up in the morning, like for work, like we have a drill weekend, you got to be up, you know, like say like 7 a.m. You're out to like 4 a.m. and you got to be up at 7 a.m. It's just, I cannot cope with the lack of sleep. I could do that at 20. You know, I could basically just drink all night, not sleep, go to PT in the morning, even take a PT test, like still intoxicated and pass and do fine. But like, it's like, why? You know, why would I do that to myself now? But like I said, if I don't have anywhere to be that next morning, I can drink a lot still. Yeah, that's fine. But it's all about what does the next day entail for me? You know, I'll get completely loaded. You know, if I got nothing to do the next day, and I don't have to be up early, as long as I can sleep, get in the requisite hours of Z's, I'm good to go. Like, consuming the alcohol is not a problem, but functioning the next day, that's what it all comes down to for me.
Yeah, you know, like for me, the later I stay up, the worse it is. So I'm already naturally kind of programmed to get up at, you know, 7:30, 8 o'clock to get the dog out and go for a walk, and then it's kind of time to move after that. Like, I've gotten into such a routine now that it's very hard to break that. So that means that even when I've been staying up late or it's a late night on a weekend, you know, even when it's a late night, it's like I can't stay in bed that long. Like when I was younger, I feel like I had the ability, like my body was able to sleep in longer and make up for that time. Like I would still have refreshing sleep. Right now, I would toss and turn for a while. Like anything after 7 or 8 o'clock, I would toss and turn, and I wouldn't be able to get back to sleep. But the funny thing is, 3 or 4 hours later, I would feel like I need a nap. Like I felt like that today.
Yeah.
So what do we do? So to this morning, I had my large hot half decaf, even with Dunkin' Donuts. they're the second highest. So the rankings are Starbucks is number 1 in caffeine content, followed by Dunkin' Donuts, followed by McDonald's. And so I do half calf just to avoid the jitters or just being too wired. I don't like that feeling. I like so that is to say, I asked them to put half decaf into my cup. So I had a large today. I had some nice vitamins here. They're anti-inflammatories. That made me feel a bit better. We went and got some food. I had a nice like bacon, egg, and cheese on an English muffin with scrambled eggs. It was good. Nice little something in my system. But the coffee we had at the restaurant was kind of strong. I only had like a cup and a half of the little diner cups, so it was small.
Yeah.
But then I still, like when we went to get our haircuts right now or whatever, I still felt that inflammation in my body. And the thing for me is like, I know what you're saying with a sugar crash, but I don't get it too crazy with Red Bull. I think it's the other ingredients in there because as far as caffeine goes, you might be able to look this up real quick. Compare the caffeine content of Red Bull to coffee. So, like, I don't think it's as high as people think unless you're getting a very large drink. Like, I'm having a 12-ounce Red Bull here right now. And I think it's like the taurine and the other stuff that they put in this.
I was going to say the taurine is the immediate.
Well, it's got B vitamins in there too. So like I'm looking at the B vitamins here. It's got vitamin B12, vitamin B6, and a couple of other things. Niacin, I'm not really sure what that does. But I feel like my inflammation has gone down almost instantly since I started drinking this. And I have water here, so I'm going to rehydrate as well.
Okay, so here's what the Googles says. Okay, supposedly one serving of Red Bull, which is 250 milliliter serving of Red Bull.
I wonder what that is in ounces.
Approximately 80 milligrams of caffeine. Now, an average cup of coffee, one shot or one shot of espresso contains 63 milligrams.
And that's just a shot of espresso.
So that's
espresso.
So one can of Red Bull is approximately 1.27 cups of coffee.
So it's not like crazy. It's not of a crazy amount more. So like, if it says that it's a little bit more than a cup would be like. If we're talking a proper cup, what is that, 6 ounces, 8 ounces?
Yeah.
So it's like basically the Red Bull has the equivalent of 1 cup of coffee or something.
Well, yeah, an average.
Or just, más o menos, like a little bit more.
But we're talking about one serving of Red Bull. I don't know what a serving. I think that's the equivalent volume of Red Bull versus the equivalent volume of coffee. So it is a little bit more caffeinated.
Yeah.
So about a quarter more caffeinated, 1 1/4.
So you said that you had it in milliliters. I'm looking at my can right now. 12 fluid ounces of Red Bull is 355 milliliters.
Right. So you're not talking.
So I'm drinking a little bit bigger than they're probably talking about an 8-ounce serving.
Yeah.
And
so
I'm at a 12.
They're talking
so
about So in that Red Bull, that's like basically 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah, almost. Well, I'll tell you what. The caffeine. Maybe that helps a little bit too, but I think the B vitamins in here, whatever it is, I feel so much less inflamed right now, and I'm feeling just so much more relaxed. I feel like my train of thought is more fluent and flowing.
Mm-hmm.
I needed that pick me up, brother, because we're here now, which we'll be talking about. Breaking down the entertainment center we made last night into an office again. So that's something we have to do after this. We're not going to be here too long, but we'll kind of launch into what our weekend entailed. So Matt and I, we do mostly real estate law. We have a lot of good friends in the real estate industry who always have events. So on Friday night, we had the grand opening of Extreme Realty Forest Park right by Harlem and Madison. So, such nice people, such cool people. They're not a huge brokerage, so it's nice. Like there's a good handful of good people that you can get to know really well, and I just feel like they've welcomed us with open arms. Very nice to see their success, see the lovely office they had. It's not a huge office, but it's nice.
It is very nice,
and it's in a nice area, so hopefully they get a lot of traffic there. And it's in addition to the Berwyn office, which is also really nice and not even that far away, just a couple miles down the road. So we had a great time there. They had like a little finger foods and stuff. Their setup was really cool. They had it in a table that kind of like everybody could congregate around and get their snacks while they were talking. And then they had a DJ was playing that easy listening house trance type of stuff. They had a little kitchen in the back, and it was just cool to unwind with our friends after a long week and dance and enjoy it,
Yeah, that was a good event. We came in kind of the tail end of it, but it was
short and sweet.
It was well done and well executed on their end. I thought they threw together a very, very good opening. So, yeah, and I like their setup there, and it seems like they got a lot of really, really great people there. So, I'm looking forward to working with them.
Yeah, and staying in touch with them. Being there at their events coming up.
So,
great event there. So we left Extreme Realty grand opening, and then we went down to also visit our good friends at Remax Partners in Berwyn, part of Team Luis Ortiz. They had a Friendsgiving. So in America, we have Thanksgiving. That's the one we spend with our families. And then we also have Friendsgiving for the people who are almost like family or they're also close to us. And they invited us in. Of course, we did kind of get there at the tail end of that, which usually they're not ending that early. But in this case, I guess it was probably just a real more laid-back event where they were just focused on having their food and then, I guess, getting home. But we got in at the tail end, enjoyed the company we did have. We had a great conversation with Sandra Diaz, and they gave me some lasagna. It was like, the weird thing was, it was like nothing out of the ordinary in terms of like, the best lasagna I ever had was this friend of mine's mom used to make this lasagna. And it was just like, she had this layer of cheese over the top, and it was like the kind where you'd lift it out of the pan and the cheese would just follow it, and you had to like cut it off. And it was just so cheesy and delicious. That's like, it was the best I've ever had. But the one the other night, what they didn't have the cheese on the top. They layered it in a little bit lower, but the cheese that was in there was just incredible. I still have some of that. In fact, I don't know if I have the stomach for it tonight. I think I want to stay on the lighter side tonight, but I have that leftovers at home, and I do want to eat it. I just don't know if it's going to be tonight. I'm going to go have dinner with my mom tonight, and we'll see. We'll see what happens. But so that was the Friendsgiving. We got out of there, and then we went to visit our good friend Louis Tayala, who owns Studio 63. He's been on the podcast before. Studio 63 is a really fucking cool place. So, like, you heard of, like, Studio 54 back in the day. That's out in New York or whatever fuck it is. Legendary nightclub where all the celebrities would go to. When we go to see Louis at Studio 63, it's like going to Cheers. So, Cheers was the show where they had a bar, and, like, the theme song was, like, where everybody knows your name. Da-da-da. Like, it's a friendly place. Like,
yeah.
You go in there, they don't charge us cover. You know, they bring you in, sit down with Louis, like you're feeling, this is the owner, this is an important man, he made all this possible because he owns a joint. And he, you know, take care of us on a shot or something or a drink. It's like, I appreciate that. And anytime somebody shows me, you know, hospitality, I usually just give it right back to the staff. Like, if you're giving me a round for free, I'll tip $20. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Before, you know, whatever. Great night there. Wasn't too crowded. We had plenty of room to dance.
Good
we looked
DJ.
the fucking part. We were sharped out. We had our nice clothes on.
Good music.
And just didn't go crazy. We left there at about 1, or a little before 1. It was 12:30, 12:45, whatever. I was at home by a little after 1. But that was the first night of the downfall of not having a lot of sleep going into yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So yesterday, we already had our game plan. Originally, we were supposed to do a podcast yesterday in addition to setting up the office for fights.
Kind of glad we didn't. It's been a busy weekend.
There was no... Dude, honestly, it would have been trying to do
really
way
have
too
time.
much.
No.
It's like one of those things where when I was younger, I was like, I have so much energy. I can cram in all the stuff. We can do it all. And now I'm realizing that's such a foolhardy thing to do sometimes, you know?
Yeah, we got our eyes got a little bit bigger than our stomach there for the whole... plate that this weekend entailed. So, but I'm glad that didn't work. It didn't work out. We'll link up with them at another time. So sometimes just things have a way of working themselves out.
It worked out perfectly, actually. You know, the thing is, like, the older I get, the more I realize that you have to break things down into their small component parts and do them little by little as you go on, because trying to take it all on and try to be, like my dad would always say, don't be a hero. Like, don't take on too much on your fucking plate, because it's punishment in and of itself. So, like, what did we do yesterday? We get up in the morning, we get our coffees, we take a little inventory here at the office. What do we need as far as we got friends coming in, we got a crowd coming in, we need food, we need, you know, hot dog buns, hamburger buns, fucking booze, whatever. We had to go get that. So the nice thing would have been if we had time like Thursday or Friday night. Of course, Friday was busy as fuck. But if we could have went to friggin' the store that night, stocked up on everything we needed, that would have gave us all day Saturday. Instead, we're taking like a 2-hour chunk out of our fucking day to run over to the store. And it was like the shopping mall.
Hell.
It was like it was Black Friday
Mini
already.
Black
I'm like,
Friday.
are they giving out free fucking TVs today or what? Because
And the traffic too. I don't know what was going on Saturday, but I was like, is there an event in town? Like, was there
it seemed
some
like a
kind
work week to me.
Yeah, very odd. Like I could hardly even get out of my parking space for all the cars going by. It was incredible. So I'm not sure what the deal was, but it was just popping Saturday.
Yeah, there was a lot of traffic out there on the road. It was hard to navigate. It slows you down, right? And it was very bizarre because usually there's a lighter volume. So whatever it was that was going on, I know there was like a lot of birthday parties and shit that was going on this last weekend. If for whatever reason, I'm like, Jesus, how many November babies are there? So that's the 11th month. If you subtract off 9, that means a lot of people are friggin' getting in the spring love mode, having babies, getting them pregnant in March, and then they're popping them out by fucking November or whatever. But
Maybe.
But we saved some time not doing a podcast. But by the time we get back from the store and grabbed everything we need, it's already 12:30. And you're like, oh, the preliminary fights don't even start till 7, and most people aren't even coming by that time because the main events start at 9. And so, but the thing is, you get back here, you got bags full of groceries. Everything is set up for a business, right? We have desks with computers on them, wires everywhere. We got stuff all around. We got to take out the trash. Got to get everything organized. We have chairs in the basement of the building. I think we have close to 30 chairs
30
or
of
something.
them.
30 chairs, plus the ones we already have up here.
That's a workout to haul up.
Yeah. So we're in a space that's like 35 feet long by about 25 feet wide at its widest. And properly arranged, there's enough for maybe 30 people to be here at kind of a max capacity where you're not like on top of each other and you can't walk around or move around. But to get it to that state, it takes a lot of effort. We have to take the computers downstairs, clear those off, use the desks as tables on one side of the office, and then use like the folding, party tables that are like 6 foot long that you get at friggin' Home Depot or Walmart or fucking Menards or one of those places. And then we literally have to take all that back down and put all the computers back up and move everything back. It's a lot of work. Some asshole is laying on the horn out there. It comes through in the headphones. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but we're on Central Avenue. It's these fuckers, they don't know how to control themselves out here.
They really don't. People need to be better medicated along Central
They need a
in
good
this area.
old-fashioned beating to keep them in check.
Yeah, medication via fist.
I'm kidding. I don't condone violence. But in any event, it all pays off, right? Because what is the end goal here? The end goal is, first of all, you and I share a lot of things in common, a lot of same interests, a lot of passions. One of those things is mixed martial arts fighting, specifically UFC and the biggest events where it's the highest plateaus of the best fighting each other when they should be. It's not like Mayweather and Pacquiao fighting when Pacquiao's got a torn rotator cuff and he's like 40 years old. You know what I mean? You're watching the matches that should be made at the time.
The cream of the crop.
And the thing is, anything can happen on any given night. Dustin Poirier said it last night. He's just, you're one bad shot away from, winning or losing or getting choked out. And, you see that, like, one inspirational story another guy we'll talk more about on the podcast is Glover Teixeira. The guy was 42 years old,
Yeah.
was a champion, and literally put on the best fight I'd ever seen against Yuri Prochazka in his last fight.
It was a war.
It was so back and forth.
An
I've never
epic
seen momentum
war.
shift every 30 seconds where, these guys get into the third and fourth rounds of a fight and they're slippery from blood and sweat. Sometimes they're fucking, they'll get their nose busted, the blood's dripping everywhere, or they're just sweaty as hell because their body temperature is super high because they're hot as fuck and they're fighting. And so we would see, like, Glover Teixeira is about to choke out Yuri Prochazka, but then Yuri Prochazka flips it around. He's about to choke him out. And then they're
so
punching each other in the head.
dynamic, yes.
And at 42, the guy wouldn't go away. And he's a guy, he isn't shied away from damage, dude. I think I saw him one time get a tooth knocked out of his head by fucking Anthony Rumble Johnson. I think it was him. I always confuse Glover Teixeira with, there's another guy, a Brazilian dude who's in the heavyweight division. Or light heavyweight? No, heavyweight. Junior Dos Santos. I always used to mix them up, but I think it was Teixeira. He got hit with an uppercut by Anthony Rumble Johnson. His mouthpiece flew out and a tooth flew out. You could literally see it on camera, and it landed on the canvas. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah, I think it was Glover actually losing the
Yeah,
tooth.
Anthony Rumble Johnson blasted him. That was like 7 years ago, and he's still fighting at 42 and was the champion. And literally, that was a very close fight, man. With fucking what ended up happening there? How did the fight with Yuri Prochazka end? Did he get choked out, or did Glover get choked out? I think he did.
I think Prochazka got a submission, didn't he?
I think we should look that up real quick. I just want to be correct about that. But I think after a back and forth thing, I think Yuri choked him out, maybe. Because it wasn't a bad knockout. Because Glover said right after the fight was over that he would be ready for an immediate rematch. He's like, I'm good. We can do that again right now.
Yeah. So, let me see here.
Submission.
Okay,
in the
yeah, it
fifth,
was a
I think.
submission, 5th round. Yep,
Yeah,
Prochazka got him.
dude was lucky to get that. Just it's where preparation meets opportunity is when luck happens. Like he got his opportunity and took it in a back and forth war where it could have either one of them could have won. That one was just a thriller in the sense that it was a roller coaster ride. It was up and down. There's so many shifts in the momentum and speed of things. And that brings us, I guess, into last night. And so the reason we do all this is the thrill and the excitement. In this office, we have a big projector, so you're seeing it on a big screen. The surround sound is so good in here that it feels like you're actually in the stadium listening to them talking on the microphone. It's like you're there.
It tricks me out sometimes because I'll hear one sound coming out of one of the speakers, like the surround sound speakers, and I think something's going on outside, like someone's yelling
It's just
outside.
somebody yelling in the
I'm like,
stands.
oh, it's just someone in the stand. I'm like, what kind of crazy shit are they up to on Central now? Damn. I'm like, oh, it's just the arena.
Yeah, you're like, do I have to go out there and fuck somebody up, or do we have to duck right now? What's going on outside? But yeah, it is like that. And the funny thing about the surround sound is, you would think, okay, every sound is coming out of all speakers. I feel like in your left channel, you just have the commentators, and then the crowd's coming through the right channel. So you'll hear somebody yelling like, fuck him up, Prochazka, or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you think, like, where is that coming from? But it's interesting stuff. So last night, we did everything we had to do to get this place ready for the fights. And another thing that went into that I should mention is the grilling. So we literally spend like 4 or 5 hours getting the office set up. And then we take a quick shower. It's because we want to do that before everybody arrives. I start grilling at just about 5 o'clock. I wasn't done till a little after 7. So I made 36 fucking cheeseburgers, 15 Italian sausages. And then, Fran made Fran's fantastic and famous party potatoes, which is like,
They're glorious.
they're a huge crowd favorite every time. They usually, at least one tray of it's gone. So what that is she takes like American fries, like the chunked potatoes, and mixes it in with some kind of cream cheese and like melted cheddar, and puts cornflakes on top and bakes them in the oven. So they're crunchy and cheesy and pretty much overall fucking delicious. So we had those. Thank you, for Fran for making those. She's a saint. She knows everybody loves them, and it's always nice to have that side dish where it's not just you're eating a burger and that's all there is to it. So we built this up for UFC 281. The preliminary fights were incredible. We're just going to focus in on some of the main event fights here, or just the main event fights, I guess. It was a stacked card. You can kind of maybe quickly run through the matchups. I don't know if you want to go bottom to top or top to bottom.
We can go
Probably bottom to top if
bottom
we're
to
going to talk
top
about.
here.
But I don't know if you want to read through them once, or we'll just talk about who was on the fight card.
We can just go through them piece by piece.
Piece by piece.
So we'll start bottom to top. So the first big fight of the night on the main card was Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. Puelles. I don't know how to pronounce.
I don't
his
know
name.
who he is. That was my first time seeing him.
Not familiar with him, but he's a slippery one with those
The ground
ankle.
rolls.
Yeah, like the ground game. He's a guy who loves to fight off his back and like try to get that heel hook and try to like either break your ankle or break your knee, whatever. He seemed to be very intent on just snatching up that leg of Dan Hooker so he could try to get that leg lock or ankle lock, whatever he was trying to do. I looked like for a minute that Hooker was in big trouble where he got that ankle cinched. He got cinched in around that ankle really good. Like he was going to twist that knee out of place or really like almost break his ankle, break his joints. And I was really surprised that Hooker was able to come out of that. He just showed really very impressive calmness under pressure. Most people would probably be panicking like, oh my God, this man is about to snap my knee joint out of its place and potentially cause permanent injury to me if I don't tap out. But Hooker was just, I guess he's been doing his stretching where he was to the point where he's like, oh yeah, I can weather the storm. And he just went about it like he was, I don't know, ordering a sandwich at a sandwich shop. Basically, it was when most people would probably be panicking. I know I would be panicking because I'm not flexible, as we've seen. Yoga is not my thing. But yeah, Hooker's been doing his yoga or whatever, and clearly just was able to come out of that when I think probably a lot of guys would have gotten caught up and would have tapped.
Yeah, and I'll give Hooker's opponent that, like, he was good at what he did for, like, what he was doing at that. He had success 2 or 3 times. So what this guy did, I don't know if I always hear, like, Rogan and them talking about, like, an Imanari roll or something. Tony Ferguson does that too. So basically, they roll up like a roly-poly.
Like an armadillo.
You're an armadillo.
Yeah,
it's like a
blah,
ball.
yeah.
And then roll at your ankles and grab at them while they're down there. And they're going from standing up in a standing position to moving forward and rolling into this thing. And it was not just that he was grabbing at legs or getting ready to do a submission. He was tripping him up with his feet. Like, he would lock him with his legs and almost trip the guy or sweep him backwards. So he had about 2 or 3 times put Dan Hooker in a bad position or bad situation with that. And, hey, it's fair game. I mean, for some people it might seem like dirty fighting or it's not entertaining. Like, most people, you know, I don't know if it's an American thing or what. They just want to see a slugfest, right? Like in Brazil, you got jiu-jitsu. It's like grappling and wrestling. Who's going to... You know what I mean? Because that's a real part of fighting. Because my friend's father told me when I was a kid, he's like, 80% of street fights end up on the ground. And that's because most people, they're not good with footwork and they're not good enough with their hands that they feel comfortable standing. It's more of a natural reaction. You see this in fighters all the time, what they call the desperation shot. They're going to try to go and get you off your feet and then try to overpower you on the ground because it's just a panic response that they feel that's the best thing to do. In some cases, it probably is. But in this case, with that fight, we saw success a few times. And what did we see? I said this when we were all sitting there watching the fight. It was like a battle to the death for your knee.
Yeah.
So your opponent's battling for your knee and your leg, and you're also battling it too. And the one thing I told you when we were, you know, just talking about this earlier is my assessment is that is a beautiful ability to control anxiety and remain calm to control a situation. Because if you slip up or if this guy gets you in a bad way, you might need ACL surgery after that match is over. Because this is not like you tap for a point or something. Once that fight's over, it's over. So Dan Hooker, he was a top 5 or 6 guy even within the last year or two, but is now ranked number 12. It was great to see him have a victory because I know that guy's a good fighter. It's just that the top 5 in the UFC's 155-pound division is so good that it's hard to stay there because he's like one of those guys is like right up there in the top 10, but he's just not quite top 5 when you have that many good guys there. But a
lot of competition.
Yep. He handled that match very well. So he frees himself from this like ankle lock knee thing and then gets out of that and ends the fight with front kick knockouts or a knockout basically or TKO by literally knocking the wind out of this guy or just hurting his liver so bad with front kicks that he couldn't stand up anymore. The ref got in between him. That's it. This guy can't even get up off the ground.
It was great to witness, you know, because you know what Claudio was doing. I get the strategy. You're a grappler. You want to grapple. You want the fight to be on the ground. You want to like pop that knee out of place, break that ankle, whatever, snatch it up. But you know, I was seeing that. Like he was literally just sitting down, like inviting Hooker to just come on the ground with him. And Hooker's like, no, get up, let's bang it out, you know, let's scrap. This is not like just sit down through the fight. I'm gonna walk up to you, just give you my ankle, you know. That's not the move. So, and he kept just going to the ground, just sitting there, like trying to like force Hooker to play ball with him on the ground, and just anything he would do, just straight down, sit down, on his butt. And it's like, it got to the point where I thought it was maybe a little excessive, and I was just like, man, I just hope he just cracks this guy with some sick ass kicks. And sure enough, he did just that, and I thought it was completely warranted because it's like, hey, this is not a pure jiu-jitsu match. This isn't a jiu-jitsu gym. It's a part of it, but this is mixed martial arts. It's a combination of multiple different fighting styles. It's not sit on your ass and have somebody roll with you while you're just on your knees and no one stands up. Like, that's not the move here. So Hooker just literally just kicked the crap out of him. Looks like the finishing kick was right to the solar plexus. It just knocked the wind. You could see him just see the wind like leave his body.
Breathe.
It's a beautiful thing. And it was warranted. So that was a great finish.
Yeah, great finish. It was stopped probably at the right time. To your point, it was like a little frustrating seeing him on the ground because after a while what it started looking like was that the pokes that Hooker was hitting him with, it looked like he was trying to rest and recover. You know, it's like you're going to keep on going on the ground, and then he's going to make you stand up. Like, you're just laying on your back for 10 seconds to try to, like, breathe a little bit or something. And it seemed like, you're trying to dodge the fight that he's trying to bring to you. So
seemed that way.
It's awkward. It's not fun to watch. It's, so I think the justice, I guess, was served by the hangman.
Yeah.
You know, they call him Dan the Hangman Hooker because he hangs motherfuckers. You know, not literally, but like in the ring or whatever. And so great fight, good for Dan Hooker to get a win. He is a top 10 guy, but god damn, that top 5 is incredible, which we'll be moving on to in a little bit. But before that, we had, what was the next fight?
Next one was Frankie Edgar versus Chris Gutierrez, and wow. What a unfortunate way to end a long career for Frankie Edgar. Seeing him go out like that, knockout in round 1 with that. Was it a flying knee or was it just a standing knee? I forget.
I don't know, either one. It was just a bad knee, and it got him on the jaw. I
right
think I was
to the
looking
face.
back at it. Yeah, it's the side of the jaw. He came up. I don't remember if it was flying. I think it was just standing.
I think so.
I don't remember seeing him leap off the ground, but poor Frankie, within the last 3 years, has been knocked out 2 or 3 times pretty bad in similar fashion. He got one of the cleanest flying knee knockouts I've ever seen was Corey Sandhagen when he fought Frankie Edgar and caught him like that. And you know what? The knockouts, the ones that he suffered were so bad that I just didn't want to see it to happen to the guy again because I know from having been hit hard in my life, it takes something out of you, man. It's hard to recover from that. It's a real shock to your system, to your tissue, to your brain, to your nerves to be hit that hard. And, you know, I said this earlier, I feel like it was one fight too many for Frankie. Like, yep. I know, I get it. You're a warrior. You had one contract left on your fight, and you wanted to, you know, go for one last ride and show the UFC, I'll honor my contract and I'll finish it out. But after some of the knockouts he suffered in the last 2 years, it might have been better just to say, you know what, I know I'm retiring anyway. Maybe I don't do that because poor Frankie got fucking hit in the chin after many years of fighting. He was an early champion in the 155-pound division, and he was fighting last night at 135 pounds. And I just feel like he'd be better off for not have taken that kind of concussion in his very last fight. He's probably already had trauma from the past that lingers, you know, some brain injuries from the trauma. And it was sad to see him go like that. And I said it right before the fight. I'm like, I don't want to see that happen. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened.
Yep.
It put a damper on things.
Yeah, it was sad to see. I
love Frankie.
Yeah, he's just always game. You know, he's got a tireless work ethic. Tough guy from the Bronx. You know, is
he from the Bronx? I thought he was Philadelphia or something.
I think it was the Bronx.
Check it out real quick. Yeah. Let's see where Frankie Edgar's from. Jersey, maybe. He might be a Jersey guy, and he said the reason he wanted to do Madison Square Garden is like it's like a neighbor to him. I think he might be a Jersey guy. Let's find out.
Yeah, I might have that confused. Let's see.
But you can tell because he's got the accent. He has a very charming accent. All those East Coast people, you know.
Yeah, he's Jersey.
Jersey, yeah.
He's Jersey.
Yeah. So that's why I think he was excited to finish his career in Madison Square Garden. But you know what? I'd have rather been there ringside and maybe have them honor me, you know, from the stands instead of, you know what I mean? Instead of going out with, and he handled it well too. He was surprisingly collected. Like, he didn't have much to say, but what he did say was at least collected. I was expecting that he wouldn't be even able to talk right. Like, he would be talking like he was concussed, and Rogan would probably just have to say, hey, you know what, Frankie, you had a great career, and we're going to honor you, but, you know, maybe we'll have this, and we'll finish this interview later or something like that. Because I remember Rogan said when Cormier got a knee kick in the third John Jones fight, Cormier was very emotional after that, and Joe Rogan was saying that, like, apparently that's a common thing when people are concussed, that you either get very angry or you get very sad. And Cormier was in tears, and that's not something you'd see that guy do, because he was the one talking about the toughness of people from Louisiana, which he is. He's like, my dad taught me that you don't walk away from any man. He's like, you don't shy from a fight, you know, and that's the kind of mentality they have.
Yeah, man. But just watching that fight, like early on, you could kind of see Gutierrez, just the way he was moving, the way he was striking, the crispness and the quickness of his strikes. It was like you're looking at him like, ooh, like this guy is not to be taken lightly. He seemed dangerous like right out the gate, the way he was throwing shots and how fast he moved and how quickly, crisply he moved. I'm like, yikes, this guy's. Frankie better watch out. Like, this guy is no joke. And sure enough, just decked him.
I think at the point where Frankie's at, it was probably no fight would really be a good one for him, because, you know, he's been injured and he's at the end of, he's also cut a lot of weight. I mean, the guy started his career at 155, and I'm wondering, I mentioned that earlier, if the trauma that he's taken over the years has just caused him to not be able to put on as much mass. Maybe he had some hormonal imbalances or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I think most fighters probably keep an eye on their blood panels to see what's what, but maybe they don't in those regards. But I know that they say that a lot of people who have TBI or traumatic brain injuries have hormone imbalances afterward, because it just throws your whole system out of whack. And then the inflammation that you get afterward doesn't allow the body to heal as well, too. It stands in the way of the healing process. So that's why I always like reduce inflammation like right away if you can. So, you know, I wonder if the trauma he's taken has actually had something to do with his decline in his ability to keep on body mass. But he started at 155, which he was kind of small for 155. A lot of the commentators were saying 145 was probably it would be his natural weight. And they were saying that perhaps at the end of his career, the draining cut to 135, like, how tall is Frankie Edgar? Do you still have the Wikipedia up there or whatever? He's probably 5'6", right? Or 5'7"?
I don't know.
Let's have a quick look at that.
Let's see.
Because I'm 5'6" on a good day, 5'5" on a regular day.
He's 5'6".
Okay, so 5'6", like, you should, I mean, anybody watches UFC can see that a lot of these guys at 155 pounds are closer to 6 foot tall than he is. And they, you know what I mean, probably normally walk around at like 190 pounds or almost 200 pounds, some of these guys. Khabib, Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, I'm sure Dustin Poirier is probably close to 200 when he's not cutting down to 155.
Oh, yeah.
And so for a guy like Frankie at 5'6", you know, like he probably normally walks around at maybe 170, 160 something. Mm-hmm. For him to cut down to, you know, almost 30 pounds to 135 is just a big cut. We know that, you know, we saw with Khabib when they canceled one of the Ferguson fights, they had scheduled to happen between Tony Ferguson and Khabib like 4 or 5 times. One of the times Khabib's liver started shutting down, and they had to take him to a Vegas hospital. His liver started shutting down because of the weight cut, because it was that draining on his body, and that's scary. Like, they need more weight divisions probably. You know, they'll need like put in an extra one every 5-10 pounds, so that, you know, first of all, you'd have more room for growth of the current fighters who are making those cuts that are probably not even healthy. But in any event, you know, Frankie's a very lovable character. Guys who have heart like that and who are nice outside of the ring will always have a special place in my heart. And so, you know, I feel like he could take on some movie roles as like a detective or cop or whatever, something, you know what I mean? Or as a commentator as well. So whatever the path that lies ahead of Frankie, I hope it's a good one, and I hope that you know, he's doing good things going forward, and then he heals. I hope he really takes his time to heal and just know that that's the last time he had to take trauma like that in his career.
Yeah, I really think that some of these fighters, when you've been knocked out so many times, it's like you think that most things you do more often, you develop resiliency to them. Like, the more you fight, the more experience you get, but like, it doesn't work that way with knockouts. Like, with knockouts, the more you get knocked out, the less resistant to being knocked out you are. You lose your tolerance for it. The more you do, you only have like a finite threshold of knockout resistance that you're born with, and each knockout, it just chips away at your resistance to being knocked out. I had a friend of mine in the Army. He was saying that, you know, when he gets into a fight at a bar now, like it's just it's all out. Like, he's coming at you with like everything he's got. He's trying to knock you out. Like, whoever he's beefing with, like, immediately, because as soon as he gets tagged, he's going down. Boom, lights out. He's like, I've been knocked out so many times now that if they just fucking tag me, like on the temple or whatever, you know, not even with like a huge bomb, but like a sharp jab or something
Just
like
a
that.
good clean shot.
Good clean shot. Like, he's like, I'm going down. They're gonna knock me out. I'm knocked out too many times. So he has like no more knockout resistance. Same thing here with like Ferguson's a great example too. Who he's been knocked out too many times. Probably needs to hang up the towel. Frankie Edgar now here clearly should have already hung up the towel. If he was wise, he just, you know, it's this fight game.
I'm not
is a
questioning
gamble.
the man's judgment.
Yeah.
It's just, I think he could have did without it, and I think
He didn't need it. His legacy was already secured. He already had a, you know, very lengthy, you know, chest of medals for his, you know, fighting
he fought
career.
the best of the best at his time. You
He
know?
didn't need it. Like, he was good, but
I remember he wanted a Conor McGregor fight so badly when McGregor was at 45, and it never happened. But in those years, it actually would have been a better matchup because that was around the time that Conor was fighting Jose Aldo in his height or close to it. Like, I feel like the Conor fight where he knocked out Jose Aldo in like 15 seconds was a turning point for Jose. He was never quite the same vicious killer. So either Conor caught him right at a point where he was coming out of his prime, or Conor put him into that place. I'm not sure which one it is. But then, you know, right before that, Conor fought a Chad Mendes, who only had 2 weeks. I think if Chad Mendes had more time to train for that fight, maybe it would have been a different outcome if he had a full camp and he was just like, you know, fully ready to go. But he took a short notice fight, made weight somehow for it to be an interim championship fight where Conor ended up walking away with the belt. But, well, he couldn't handle the shots the way he could have if he might have been better conditioned, if he had more cardio.
I think so.
If he
that hurt him a lot.
Had been able to train more. But to Conor's credit as well, he claimed that he had a partial ACL tear and it was pretty bad going into that fight. He had already torn his ACL against, I think it was Max Holloway a few years before that. So Conor fought Max Holloway. They were both very young at the time. I think Conor was maybe a couple years older than Max, 3 or 4 years older. So I think Conor was 24 or 25 and Max was maybe 21 or 22. But Max got a hold of his leg, and when he was pulling it out, I think on the way up, he had him like by the ankle, and he fucking popped his ACL. So I don't know if that was the same knee that was compromised against Mendes, but I know it was only within a few years of each other. But in any event, so that was that. So now we have the fight of the night, the fucking one that I was so excited for, because I know Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier are cut from the same cloth. Them and Justin Gaethje. Those three guys are like, they don't mind throwing heavy hands, you know? And Michael Chandler put it on display again last night. In fact, it was some of the best striking I had seen from him in the UFC so far. He had connected on Dustin's head and shin a couple of times where
he was rocked.
Dustin got saved by the bell in the first round. He got if rocked. There was 10 more seconons or 11 more seconds, I think he would have knocked out Chandler. He would have knocked out Poirier. Yeah. He had connected with a couple, like I can't remember. One might have been like a uppercut and a hook.
Yeah,
right
you saw those hook bombs.
Almost knocked his head off. Like,
just swinging for the fences.
Poirier looked like he wasn't going to be able to stand on his feet much longer. He was about to, like he was a tree that was getting chopped down.
The wall was kind of holding him up. The cage was kind of holding him up. He was getting bounced around with those hooks. Because a guy like Chandler, like he's just kind of balls to the wall all the time in a fight. Like he's always coming at you. I mean, and that's why he's so explosive. That's why he has some of those big knockouts. But you know, as we saw later in the fight, that's also it's a gamble. Like when you're throwing big bombs, you're exposing yourself to shots too. So, but he's willing to take that risk, and the fight game is a risk. It's a roll of the dice, and he just goes for broke every fight, 100% balls to the wall, and it's something to watch. It was very, very entertaining fight. Just two guys just trying to blast each other's heads off, you know, with everything they got. Very good.
Yeah, evenly matched in terms of build and strength. Of course, Michael Chandler is a shorter man. Let's take a look at their heights. So I think if I had to guess with Chandler, he's probably 5'7", 5'8". Let's see. And Poirier, I think, is about 5'10". That would be my guess.
He's 5'8". Yeah.
So, yeah, Chandler's 5'8", maybe a little short. He's on the shorter side of that division, because kind of like Frankie was at 5'6". And then Poirier's, I want to say 5'10" or 5'11".
5'9".
Or 5'9".
That's not huge.
Actually, but you know what's weird, though? I love it when you see a height difference. It's only 1 inch, but it seems bigger. Like
Poirier's
seems
frame is bigger.
but the height wise, he seems like he's like 2 or 3 inches above Chandler. And
Chandler had a very wide stance in that fight, so I think that kind of shortened him down a bit. But Poirier is, he seems big at that. Like he has a bigger frame.
He's this big V-shaped back. Like his shoulders are like out here. Lean but thick. He's like thick slim.
yeah. You have like they're skinny fat and thick slim. It's just
he's thick slim. Like and just good technique, good strength. He's up there in the top 5 where he like as long as he's fighting, he's always going to be a top 5 guy unless he starts getting knocked out like Frankie Edgar or whatever. But in any event, what was impressive was Chandler had lifted up and slammed Dustin Poirier like 3 times in that fight.
Very dramatically.
I didn't see Khabib do that. Like this was not like I'm going to take you down and ground upon you. I'm going to do something that you have no choice in the matter. I'm going to slam you. We'll see where it goes from there, and just throwing all his energy into it. With Khabib, it was more of a controlled thing. Like, he's going to pull you down and just drag you in and just pull you in. Yeah. Chandler's like, I'm going to throw you on a violent fucking ride like you're getting thrown out of a helicopter, and it's going to be a crash landing, and then we're going to fucking fight after you just got hit in the crash landing. Like, it was just... I said this before. I think the best way to sum up Michael Chandler is when he lets his fist fly, when he lets go and just lets bombs start raining, it's magic, man. Like, magic happens during those times. And props to Poirier for withstanding the storm because he got hit with a lot of good shots. He was... And another thing that the reason that Chandler is one of my favorite fighters is I follow him on Instagram, and I see every day he's working. There's always a video up of a new day where he's lifting some kind of weight, working on explosive movement. There's no way you're lifting up another guy who, after weighing in at 155 pounds, is probably now closer to 180 something.
Yeah, I would say 175 probably.
At least. I would say that Poirier was probably 180, 185 by the time it was all said and done, once he was rehydrated or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm overestimating. Because if you went from 55, if you add 20 on that, so about 175 probably.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I know they used to say George St. Pierre, when he would fight at 170 pounds, would cut down to 170, and by the next day, after he was rehydrated and fed, would be about 188. So he'd put on almost 20 pounds in almost a 24-hour period. Kind of crazy.
That is. I mean, where they're just like eating all the time, pounding water, just
rehydrating, like ramen, getting all that water weight back in your system, and then fucking, it shows you though. Think about how scary that is. Your body was able to put on 20 pounds of weight, roughly, right? 18 pounds of weight overnight because that's how badly you were drained to get to 170. Like, you could literally add almost 20 pounds of weight simply overnight.
It's wild. It's wild. The human body is a crazy thing. Like, it's you wouldn't think that would be possible. Like, you know, because people talk about, you know, how hard it is to, like, lose weight, but then you don't really talk about how easy it is to put it on, too.
I've said that for many years. My little joke, my little thing that I would say is that that adding weight, it's like arithmetic. It's like it's easier to add than subtract. Like, that's what I was like, it's just like simple math or whatever, and it's weird how it works out that way. Like, you want to gain weight, just start eating a bunch of bullshit, right? And pack it on where you haven't even barely digested the first thing, you're adding more. Your body's going to start storing it because there's nothing else it can do. But in any event, that fight was everything that I had hoped for and more. It was just, I said it when the fight was over. People were like, oh, you know, like I said Poirier was going to win. I was like, there is no losers here, only 2 winners. Like, they made it a thriller of a fight. He could have went out and been more conservative and maybe won it, you know, but it's like, you know, it's funny because you maybe you overcommit to something, your balance is off, and then you roll into a bad position or you get caught with something then. It is what it is, but the fact that he's willing to put it out there on the line, it makes it for an electrifying fight every fucking time. Yeah.
And I thought that Poirier to come back, you know, the way he did after almost getting kind of saved by the bell there at the end of the first round.
10, 15, 20 more seconds. He
could have been any man's fight, you know, and for him to come back, though, just kind of recalibrate and just hit on the gas. What did I say? Like, put that fucking Louisiana hot sauce into those punches.
I like that, yeah.
You know, I just watching him strike, just with the precision and the power behind his punches.
He picked
was
his places
something
to
else.
do it,
He's
yeah.
kind of picked Chandler apart there, toe to toe, and it's just Dustin's more of a he's more precise. Like he throws down like he's game his own and throws shots.
His
but
game,
like,
as they call him, yeah.
but like Chandler's like he's basically like mauling you like a wild animal, and Poirier's more like it's more of a surgical thing with him, and he was able to capitalize on that and just connect. Like he hit Chandler with just these precise power shots that just, and I was actually surprised Chandler was able to stay on his feet for as long as he did, taking those hits, because he was just cracking him clean in the face, just. And Chandler he was kind of like against the cage, and he was just trying to like respond, trying to hit him. Yeah, but like, dude, he was just so concussed that like, you know,
there was no.
But he still had the willpower there. He was still trying to come back, still trying to throw, but he couldn't connect because he was just in the shadow realm, or the what does Ali say? Where it's the room where lizards play saxophones. That's what Ali said. Yeah, so that's where he was.
There's some Twilight Zone shit.
He's still the willpower was still like I still gotta fucking.
If I throw something, I'll connect.
He's still trying.
He knows that when you're in the pocket like that and you're close enough to hit a guy, if you start throwing something, you might get connected. I've seen fights,
you do.
The momentum shift, and then another guy ended up winning because they threw an overhand, even though they were getting belted. They just tossed something over.
The line bomb, yeah.
The other guy's focusing on where he's going to hit him, and just all of a sudden the overhand right comes in and just levels the guy.
Yeah.
Or just stuns him so bad that the next few shots that are coming, the guys barely have enough strength to throw, but they connect with the right shots, you know. Because if they've already been worn down, then it's easier to just turn off the volume and put them to sleep. But
that's what makes the sport so interesting, is because it's so dynamic. Like, you never know. It changes from moment to moment, the momentum shift. You never know how it's going to go till it's over. So
yeah, Dustin Poirier said it in the, you know, I was reading some quotes from him this morning in a news article, and he says, you know, he has this very, very good philosophy about fighting. He's like, you know, people ask me if I'm scared, you know, when I go into these fights, and he's like, yeah, I am a little bit nervous. He's like, but that's kind of what lets me know that I'm doing something so big, is that, like, he's like, I think if you're not nervous and you're going in there without like realizing the magnitude of what you're about to do and who you're about to face, that's maybe not the right approach for fighting. Like, I think he says almost like the nerves and a little bit of anxiety is a healthy thing, because it keeps you sharp. It keeps you like knowing that the severity of the outcome, what it could be, the damage you could suffer if you're not on point, like, I think is what he's saying. Like, you realize, like, you're going in there with a killer, man. A guy's going to let his hands fly. One of the most vicious fighters, one of the most entertaining, electrifying people to watch. Dude, one false move and it's lights out. Mm-hmm. And, like, you take any fight with Chandler where he's lost, it could have easily won, too. He knocks out Dan Hooker in this beautiful, flowing, looping thing, kind of what he was coming into the face of Poirier and Gaethje with, or Oliveira. So he comes in, knockout win, first fight in the UFC, clean knockout, just flying on, you know, you could see here's your meteor going to rise. He gets his next fight, it's a title shot against Charles Oliveira. Almost knocks him out. Same thing that he almost did to Poirier in the first round, except for Poirier stood on his feet and was lucky, because if the time was run out, Chandler had almost a full gas tank still. Yeah. He would have rained bombs until Poirier wasn't on his feet anymore. Very lucky. They're lucky that sometimes it happens where the fighters will survive to get into the next round. They'll get that quick refresher and maybe take it easy and pace themselves a little bit to get their win back, and then they start getting in the zone and they're less nervous and they're ready to go again. They make that recovery. But in any event, with the Oliveira fight in Chandler, Oliveira was on the ground crumpled and was getting his head smashed from the side. And Chandler, he's a shorter guy. He's got those T-Rex arms, was short like mine. Probably mine are short or whatever. But the ability to generate a lot of power and torque in a very small amount of space. So he's just wailing on his head. Bell saves fucking Charles Oliveira. Second round, the script gets flipped. Mm-hmm. Oliveira comes in, rocks Chandler. Got hit him with a really good, precise shot. He's another guy, maybe even more precise than Poirier, which is hard to say because Poirier is a very good striker, very good boxer. Without showing it off, like you got Nate Diaz, where it's just like he'll show you boxing skill, where it's like I'm just gonna straight up box with you. Like here,
pretty much.
Poirier's a little more sneaky about it. He's flowing. He just works it in and hits you with really hard shots. He's got a lot of power because of that upper body that he has.
Yeah.
But in any event, so Chandler almost wins the championship in his second fight. It would have been a dream come true for him. After that, who's going to get the next title shot? Well, here comes Justin Gaethje. You're looking at the new improved like 2.0 version of Justin Gaethje. Incredibly violent power, hands of stone, just deceptively violent power. Like, you look at Michael Chandler, you're like, that guy's so jacked, he's just strong. You can see it.
Yeah, he's built like a gorilla.
Not really a six-pack, but a flat stomach. He's kind of like Dad Bod Light or something like that. He's not like jacked. He's not fat. He's like just a slim frame. Has the strongest leg kicks in the game. An uppercut like a fucking shovel. And just very precise striking. He worked on that a lot. Two guys where it's like the UFC and all of us are better for having seen Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler fight. And the same thing with Poirier last night. And it's just so crazy for Chandler. I do hope that he wins the championship one day, but it's so hard when you're facing, I'm rooting for you, Michael Chandler, if you're out there listening to this. If you hear this back, God willing, my voice will reach people like you, and I'm your biggest fan, brother, and, fucking, we hope that you can win it, but the competition is so stiff, and the way you put yourself out on the line, it's just hard, man. One day it could be yours. It came so close with Oliveira to achieving your dream. Like, the thing about fighting is, like, if this is what you want to do, people can literally watch you on a world stage achieve your, like, life's goal, your life's work. We see the culmination of that, or, and the thing you see is the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. Both things are very powerful. And now you have Islam Makhachev comes in and beats Charles Oliveira. So now you just have, there's so many people in that weight range that, like, we're seeing the cream of the crop fighters from around the world being brought together in the UFC to battle it out.
And I feel like a lot of these, top 5 guys that are, like, say the lightweight division, I mean, it could go, like, if you just ran them, like, in a digital simulation or whatever,
yeah,
it would just switch around. If everybody fought each other, like 10 times over, 15 times over, like, it would,
this guy won 40% of the time, yes. The other guy won 60% or something.
They would all be champion at some point, and just some a little more often than others and some a little less. It's just,
and it also depends on who's holding the belt at the time. Because what you don't see in fighting very often that we saw in the UFC, that we saw at 155 pounds, is Khabib Nurmagomedov goes 28-0 and ends his career, goes out on a high, which is the best way to go.
He did
honestly,
it right.
I think, like, it's like you're out now and you said you're out, stay out. We don't need to see the legacy fight, the George St. Pierre. If you were still fighting and your father hadn't passed away, and you didn't want to do this anymore without your father, your mother didn't want you fighting without your father in your corner, just stay out, man. Like, as much as I would love to see this, like, super mega fight, or see Khabib facing some of those guys at 170, I'm sure he'd fuck them up too. I don't need to see it.
No,
I want to see somebody preserve a perfect record.
Yes, definitely. I agree. And also, he's kind of almost living vicariously through Islam, sort of,
now
as his protege. Yeah. So
it's me in there still.
It's his influence still. He hasn't completely divorced himself from fighting. And Islam I mean, wow. There's proof in the pudding right there. Like, the Khabib method works.
And he mentioned that in his so recently. Unfortunately, you weren't here to see that in person, but you did watch the replay back briefly.
Yeah,
this morning, only a round and a half or almost 2 rounds, but unfortunately, it wasn't Charles Oliveira's day that day. Even though he's an elite fighter, in any event, Islam Makhachev wins the day. Khabib comes in the cage. It's a celebration, and Islam mentioned the losses. He didn't. He's had. See if you can pull up his record real quick.
So, like,
I think he's only 2 or 3 losses, and maybe just 2. I think he's like, I don't know. I'll wait to hear the actual record. I don't need to speculate, but I know it's not much.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, 23 wins, 1 loss, and yeah. So it looks like just 1.
23 wins and 1 loss, or 23 wins.
Yeah.
And 1 loss.
And then 1 draw.
In 1 draw. Okay, so I knew there was one. I think I felt like, after having seen his record, there was one that was like, draw or no contest, but I thought they were both losses. But whatever. So he had a loss. He didn't have that perfect untarnished record like Khabib, but still Khabib. And then you shift over to Khabib, and he says, "We trained together all our lives. Like, since we were kids. Like, he was right there with me." And I'm actually glad they didn't have to face each other in the division. It's like they're kind of like a very similar guy or a similar fighter. They have the same style. It's like, I'd rather see one dude do it, and then the next one gets to take over. So, like, in terms of if you're writing a script for a movie, this is probably the best way it could happen, so that, like, childhood friends don't have to fucking try to battle it out to the finish. I mean, they probably did that enough in the gym anyway. But if those guys were smart, I don't think they go hard enough where that they're hardy, but not hard enough where they're knocking each other out, which is probably for the best. You don't need to be getting knocked out in training. Then you don't even bring as much to the table to the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a balance to be struck certainly with that. So next fight.
We'll wrap up the ending. So here's how it ends. After what was a hailstorm of a fight with fucking hammers and nails flying everywhere, Dustin Poirier does something that he trained for by watching footage of Michael Chandler. They know that he's explosive on his back and has the ability just to, because of his strength in his legs and his hips and just his entire body, his core, is able to hip out or explode out of a position that somebody would normally be able to hold you in. He can just roll back out of it because he just explodes off of you. Not many guys have that. So Dustin Poirier said in the post-fight interview that we knew that because we watched footage of him, and so that my team told me you can't let him get his feet on the ground and planted. You have to roll him in such a way that his legs are useless, and you've taken that out of the equation. So he can't just
launch his way back.
Yeah, he can't launch off of you or twist to the side. And Dustin Poirier executed perfectly after being cracked a few times. Got Chandler's back and rolled him onto his side and choked him out that way. And he went out guns blazing. Had literally did the same thing to Poirier during the second round, had weighed on him like a wet blanket, just like Khabib used to do to people, was totally in control, was winning the fight up until that sequence. And that if there's anything that's painful for Chandler, it's got to be that. It's like, dude, you were winning these fights until those things happen. But, maybe they get a horse whisperer that gets in there and kind of does what like Trevor Whitman did with Gaethje. He's like, slow down a little bit. You don't need to be the highlight reel every single time. Let's pull it back and just be more economical and efficient with what we're doing, so you still have a gas tank and you haven't taken as much damage.
Yeah, because I think maybe it works for him and against him being that explosive. So he's more likely to get the knockout bomb early on or at whatever point. But at the same time, it's a lot. Granted, his conditioning is incredible, but that's a lot of juice out of the gas tank, and I think that leaves him open to taking those shots, especially when you're with a really dangerous striker like Poirier. When you're laying it on the line first round. I'm not saying he gassed out, but he didn't.
He definitely didn't because he was lifting Dustin Poirier up and slamming him in the third round after going full gas tank.
You cannot be as defensive. You lose your defensive ability when you're fatigued like that. Even if you're not gassed out, when you exert so much energy, I think that kind of maybe exposed him some of those more dangerous precision shots. It's harder to account for that, harder to dodge, harder to manage it when you're really fucking tired.
Well, you're 1 second slower because you've expended so much energy in your output on offense that you didn't have your hand up when you needed to, or you were walking into something trying to dodge it, but you didn't have the explosive power to really get through it before it hit you, or whatever the case may be. So, but hats off to Michael Chandler for just enriching us all with watching what is the most beautiful about fighting, and graceful and just chaotic and just great fight. I look forward to every single fight the guy does, and I think on any given day the victory could be his, and hopefully he'll make those minor adjustments that he needs to make to be a champion. He deserves it. I don't know if there's anybody who deserves it more than him. Last two fights of the night, you have Weili Zhang versus Carla Esparza in the women's championship, second to last fight of the night. Yes, this was one that went down. Some of the fights I literally could not call. I had no idea. It's like a coin toss. It could go either way. This one, I was pretty confident in Weili that she would come off with the win. I thought Carla did well trying to keep that fight on the ground using her skill set as a grappler. Like, she was pretty composed through it, but she just looked like coming into it, she just looked like she was, I don't know, different. She wasn't hungry enough?
Yeah, maybe. Like, she was just kind of there. Like, she was or not present. Like, she was detached. Maybe she was just hyper-focused, overthinking it or something.
Or just working on keeping her nerves calm.
Yeah, trying to keep her nerves calm. But she just looked like she was just not present coming into that. Like, she was just like
a little detached.
And Weili is always just
she was on
game
autopilot.
As hell. Weili is always game as hell. She looks like a warrior. She's coming in there, to just go all out against her opponent. She trains crazy hard. She's a well-rounded fighter. She's a scrappy striker. She's got ground game, and she's just strong as an ox. What were you telling me? What did she pick up Ngannou like he was nothing or something?
Yeah.
Just walked around with him.
Because Ngannou, so
When they're
Francis
hanging out.
Ngannou was the men's heavyweight champion in the UFC, and I guess they were at the same training center one day, and Weili kind of did a little sequence where they're kind of moving with each other, and Weili comes in, and I can't remember if it was like a fireman carry or if she had a single leg, and lifted Francis Ngannou up to her shoulder calmly and then put him back down, and in a way where it wasn't like her knees were about to buckle. So this is a small Asian woman who is lifting a man who's right now he's probably close to 300 pounds before he, you know what I mean, before he goes into a fight. He might have to, I don't know if he really cuts weight or anything, but I know the heavyweight limit, they shouldn't even have a limit on the weight. I feel at that point, if you're big enough, like if you're gonna fight a guy who's like 300 or 320, and you're already at like 270, like I think, you know what I mean. At that point, like you're both really powerful men. But in any event, or maybe they should make a super heavyweight division. But in any event, you're talking to a guy who's probably like 280, 300 pounds, and she just lifted him up. I mean, it's a small woman, but just a lot of strength, good balance. She always seems like the hungrier fighter. She's very hungry to be champion and
Very motivated.
super humble at the end too. Yeah. Right now, we know there's this like silent Cold War going on between the United States and China, in trade, in weaponry, in cyber technology, and cyber threats, and maybe even bio warfare. With viruses and all this. But in any event, that's all silent that's going on, right? Who knows what it actually is, but it definitely makes you suspicious. But in any event, humble as hell, she says, I know there's things, like, I think she literally acknowledged that there's, things going on between the U.S. and China, but, like, this is a victory for everybody. I want this to be, like, the world's victory. So beautiful thing. She always does this thing where she shows her heart.
The heart, yeah.
And so just, you got to respect people that show kindness and step outside of, the confines of the world and society as we know it. And, how did I think it was going to go down? Yeah, to your point, I did see that. I think Carla Esparza was more of a blank slate. Like, she was on autopilot kind of going through it, but did give some great, because she did give some great fighting in there. I mean, seeing how strong, Weili is, and seeing what a hungry fighter she is in her previous fight. She was already a champion. This is the second time now, got her belt back. It seemed like she maybe wanted a little bit more. But Carla Esparza, I thought she was going to fold much easier and took on a very strong opponent.
She weathered the storm well and calmly, too. Like, she was very collected, but she just can't bang with Weili. She's not that much of a striker. Like, you just cannot go toe-to-toe to her. Like, she's scrappier. She's more powerful. I mean, and she's just gonna beat you up. Most women, she's gonna beat them up.
So the ending sequence was a submission on that one?
Yeah, and she still managed to get her by a submission because she's strong as a python.
Yeah, I mean, I think Carla Esparza handled the strength differential as well as she could have. I think last night the theme of the entire evening was people getting caught in bad positions, either getting rocked with a punch, and that was the difference maker, or getting choked out, or getting not hit with a punch and then getting choked out. Seemed to be the theme. But good for Weili Zhang, winning the championship back. I feel like Carla Esparza had it, it was an easy path to the championship. So it's nice for her, after competing as long as she has, to have a belt, or have had the championship and have that title. But the fight against Rose Namajunas was one of the most boring fights. The fight for the title when she won it was one of the most boring fights I'd ever seen. She didn't take any damage. Neither of them did. And, like, it was, like, almost like getting a vacant title. Like, there was no even competition.
It was a terrible fight. Yeah.
One of the worst I've ever seen. The other one was Derek Lewis and Francis Ngannou, two guys who have the power to make fireworks, but just, I guess the wicks were damp that night and they couldn't get them to burn to explosion. But they were both afraid of each other. And that's what it seemed like with Rose was afraid of the takedown, didn't want to be on the ground with Carla Esparza.
Esparza was afraid of getting knocked out, so she wanted to stay out of range.
Yeah, and they're just both doing this. They just danced around in the ring.
I think that's
the
worst fight ever that I've seen. Worst UFC fight ever.
To me, it's right there in the top two worst fights ever. We're right along with that Francis and Ngannou.
And there was, like you said, there was no victor in that. They were both losers in that fight, in my opinion.
And yet, Esparza comes away with the championship, so got the title. Good for her. I mean, she worked her way up to the point where she gets a shot at top competition, and then takes the championship just by, I guess, showing up. You know what I mean?
much.
And then your next fight is with a killer from China who's like has the hunger of somebody who's just been released from jail and is now really trying to live their life, and they're going guns blazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Weili, I guess, earned it, and no disrespect to Carla Esparza, because put on a great show and handled things better than
I thought she would.
a lot of people would, and just got caught in a bad position where she got choked out, and just if she had, if things didn't twist that way or the momentum wasn't going that way where she was in that position, might have won the fight.
Yeah.
And then we move on to the middleweight championship with Israel Adesanya defending his belt against, what is it, Alex Pereira?
Pereira, yeah.
I don't know. I've heard different
the
pronunciations. I think everybody's trying to fake it till they make it on this guy's last name. But
Pereira.
What's his first name? Is it Alex?
Alex. We'll call him Alex.
So this man comes in dressed in face paint and everything for the weigh-in, the ceremonial weigh-in. He looks like just an
Amazonian tribal warrior.
Yeah, an Amazonian tribal warrior, and he's from Brazil. He's facing, Israel Adesanya, and, incredible fight. I didn't realize what a great and elite fighter Izzy was until he really showed the display of skill. It was like he was in control of every cell in his body, all operating in unison the way he wanted him to. He was kicking like a whip. His punches, from a man who was visibly smaller in frame size and maybe a bit in height, were crisp and hard as fuck. He was rocking Alex Pereira. And
he rocked him towards the end of the first round damn well good. And Pereira was just, he was doing a little bit of, he was wobbly a little bit. But yeah, Adesanya controlled that whole fight up until the point he got rocked. And that's, again, bad position. Theme of the night. Just the fight can be going your way 90% of it. But in this game, all you need is that 1 time out of 10 to completely shift the entire momentum of the fight, change the whole course of the fight in the blink of an eye. That's all it takes. And when you got a guy like Alex in there, Mr. Stone Fists, I mean, there's a reason why they call his
nickname, right?
Yeah, it's like Stone Hands, Stone Fists. Like, it's like, holy shit, I see how he got his nickname. Like, this guy is concrete for hands. It's crazy, and it's a repeat of the past, when they had their kickboxing bout. It's just, you have Adesanya controlling the fight, putting on a masterclass. I mean, he really it's a masterclass in fighting. You really can't fight much better, and he's not
controlled
in terms of how you actually fight.
Assassin-like precision.
Yeah, he doesn't have a ton of power. Like, he doesn't have like the power that Alex does, but in terms of like his precision, his fight IQ, the way he executes, everything he does, he did everything you could humanly possibly do to basically win that fight. It's just, what did McGregor say? Like, when certain people connect, the human body cannot withstand it. The human chin cannot withstand it. It's just he just has a physical limitation of getting hit by a fucking monster with that much power. Like, you just one slip up, and that's it. You get lucky and connect, lights out. So some people are freaks of nature. Like, you have like a Nate Diaz that can take shot after shot after shot like a zombie. And just keep,
many years of doing it.
Yes,
he defies the odds.
It's unreal how much punishment you can take.
Because he got knocked out with a head kick before, or a knee kick, and it was a bad knockout, but just recovered very well from it.
Yeah,
just durable as they come.
Yeah, very much so. But I just don't think Adesanya has that. Some people are built different. They can take more force, more punishment, and some can take less. So, but still, I don't think you could have fought a better fight, like a smarter fight or more well executed fight than he did. And he even went outside his comfort zone, took Alex down, showed some ground game, which he never does, and
really
he did well,
and
controlled
against a bigger man, weighing him down like a wet blanket, hooking in where he needed to with his legs to keep him down. He did as good as you can, but got brute force won the day and a good solid shot. His corner hyped him up and told him that's what he needed to do. He executed. And so, as far as the history of this fight goes, Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira have fought each other 3 times. And so 2 of them were in kickboxing. One of them was on the decision on points that it went to Pereira. We're talking about 2 guys who are probably both world champion kickboxers. The second time was a knockout. Izzy got caught. He's definitely a different fighter now than he was when he got knocked out that time. And I think those are, the only losses he has, I think, are to Pereira. I'm not certain about that. But in any event, Izzy, it seemed like going into the fight last night, the way he controlled the fight is as if there was no history between them before, and this was a clean slate. He's coming out calm, cool, collect, crisp, dangerous, just an all-around elite fighter. I mean, what I saw out of him last night was such a controlled fight. Even though he was not shying away from the danger zone, such a controlled fight that it was elite. Like, he looks like a pound for pound best. If there's anybody who fights better than that, like, show me the more well-rounded game, because he was good in every aspect.
Yeah.
From striking with his legs, with leg kicks, to striking with his fist, and finding ways, like, not only to sneak in punches in weird places and get around somebody's guard and hit him in the head, but also dodge a lot of them. Like, they call him the last stylebender. He's like in the Matrix. He's weaving around. It's hard to believe it's real. And dodged a lot of shots until finally in the 4th round or 5th round, during the last round of the fight, gets caught with really heavy hands. And surprisingly, Pereira was able to throw that kind of power after losing 4 rounds of a fighter. I think people were saying it was 3-1, but I'm like, I don't know. The round of if Pereira won one early, it was close round, I think, no matter what, because Izzy seemed to be in control of the entire fight.
Yeah, it seemed that way to me. If Alex hadn't connected, that was Izzy's fight easily. That was definitely clearly going in his favor up until that point, but that's how the mixed martial arts goes. It all changes in the blink of an eye. And, let's talk that stoppage for a minute. Some people
let's mention that as well.
Had talked about, was that an early stoppage?
Yeah.
I mean, Izzy was rocked. Like, he was in all kinds of trouble, but he was still on his feet. It wasn't like he had gone down. He was kind of McGregoring like he did with Money Mayweather. So was it? I think we said before, like, there's a stoppage threshold, right?
A bad stop, there's a good stop, and a stop that's too late.
Yeah, so there's bad stop, good stop, and there's a certain threshold you have in between, bad stop and good stop, and it's still within the good stop threshold.
Yes.
But in the direction of a bad stop, it's still closer.
It was
to that
on the
end
bad
the
side of a
spectrum.
good stop.
It was on the bad side of a good stop. Because you can make an argument this guy was still on his feet. He was still moving. I don't know that he wasn't
hadn't
out
collapsed.
On his feet.
So he was in a position where it was like what my yoga instructor would say is like a halfway bend.
Yeah.
So he was
like,
his head was down. He hadn't collapsed to the point where his legs gave out way. He was up, and I think he was trying to dodge it. Badly rocked, but still trying to find a way out of the position he was in to maybe start throwing something back or get a way to recompose himself.
And that could have been one of those situations like where you have just a haymaker out of nowhere that changes the course of the fight. Do I think that would have happened? No. I think he would have gotten put on his ass and knocked out. But it would have been nice to know for sure.
Yes. Yeah, to have that certainty.
Yeah.
To see, like, okay, it was a clean knockout. There's nothing he could have did to stop it. That was... And I said that a little bit. I don't think everybody else caught on that, because I've been watching these for a while. You have too, so we're kind of maybe more in tune to it than a lot of people who watch them with us. But we're bringing people into the fold and kind of showing them something new, and the excitement that we feel from it is contagious as well. I think everybody here felt that last night. Between the atmosphere of the big screen, the surround sound, and the energy, and just the energy is the surround sound helps because it feels like you're there. So you're feeling like almost what it's like to be in the crowd when there's a clean knockout. You know what I mean? Like, I think when Michael Chandler upkicked Tony Ferguson in the chin, everybody was on the same page. Everybody stands up out of their seat. It's just this energetic thing. It's like, oh my God, it's hard to believe we're witnessing this right now. And in any event, we saw that last night as far as the stoppage. It was on the bad side of a good stoppage. It was like, when a guy's about to lose his championship belt on the world stage and it's the 5th round, I think you need to let the guy do a clean finish, because this was not a situation where he was pinned to the ground and his head was just getting wailed on or something and was going on for a good 20 seconds.
Yeah, wasn't that definite?
He's trying to bob and move a little bit. He's still on his feet. He appealed to the ref immediately after. He's like, you could have gave me a little bit more. He was still. they called it as a TKO, but he still had his wits about him at the end. When he appealed to the ref right away, like he could have gave me a little second. I think he was probably seeing stars pretty bad, but knows that he lives in the shadow realm of the Twilight Zone where he can, if anybody can pull it out, he can. And it's a shame because of their history that it wasn't just like, let the guy finish him, because otherwise you need to let him ride it out, give him the benefit of the doubt to hold the belt, but also a good stoppage because you could tell he was clearly rocked. He was compromised. You can see it. You're watching it happen. And so, hey, it is what it is. But I think, God, it would be interesting to see, that fight again, because he has all the tools to do it. Just it didn't work out for him that night. Brute strength and force and power won the day. It's crazy to think that Izzy could maybe even get better and come back and win. But I think if with anybody is possible, it's him. And I feel like we kind of talked about this earlier. I know Izzy probably wants a rematch. He's beaten everybody in that division. It's like, who else are you really going to put him against? But I think, you need to air things out a little bit and just sharpen your skill and display it again, and maybe fight with another good striker to see if you can withstand it, and then come back up and take on Pereira, and maybe let a few other people get a crack at him. I think Whitaker-Pereira would be a good fight. If you had fucking Yoel Romero and Pereira, that would have been an incredible one.
Very lit.
That would have been an incredible one. Who else do you have? I think Paulo Costa, he would have been another good one to see, or even Gilbert Burns, one of these fucking guys. Dude, how about fucking Khamzat Chimaev versus fucking that guy? They're a similar build. Khamzat Chimaev's power is like the Michael Chandler on steroids at a larger
dangerous
size.
Yeah.
Like to just bulldoze people. So that would be an interesting one. I think Khamzat Chimaev against anybody in the top 5 of that middleweight division would be an incredible fight to watch. So in any event, there's a lot of potential for good fights there. But I think Izzy needs to kind of air things out a little bit and just maybe, take a couple of fights where he's showing, all right, now I'm ready, let's do this again. Just because of the history of that being their third loss, to go back and do it right away again, I don't know if that gives you the breathing room to make the adjustments you need to make to, and to Izzy's credit, he could have just skipped away the whole time and rode it out to the victory and made, Pereira chase him, and maybe he was doing that a little bit, but I didn't really know, it wasn't noticeable.
I feel like he engaged.
He engaged still.
Yeah.
And that may have been the downfall of things, but nobody wants to see somebody. There's something about coasting to a victory that people just, it doesn't sit well with most people. They're kind of like,
in a championship fight.
Let's keep it open for risk the entire time. We don't want to see you just, backpedaling the whole time or dodging and skipping around like for 5 minutes. Like, people want to see risk and danger and fireworks the whole time. So interesting shit, man. Great night of fights. One of the best I've ever watched. I feel like, out of all the fights I've watched, almost every one of them was a fight of the year candidate, or they had the potential to be up there in top 10 fights of the year. They all were. So go down the UFC, Dana White and the UFC for everybody putting that together. It was a great end to the evening, and I guess that's all I got to say about that. I'm excited for the next one, but one of the best fight cards I've ever watched in my life from start to finish.
Glad we got to see that live. Great time. And looking forward to the next one.
So we'll see when that'll be. We got a lot of holiday events coming up in December. I feel like it's one Christmas party after another, and our souls need a fucking rest because we deal with people in our job, and they drain us sometimes.
Yep.
The worst ones drain you bad, and but you take people as you find them, and life's full of different people. You just got to try to learn how to manage your reactions better. It's not always easy to do when you're like us with fucking sleep deprivation and constant hard work. We're like, I said this to somebody recently. We don't think about thoughts and words as like having weight, but they are weight, and they take a lot of strength to bear them. So we're constantly like doing this mental workout to be strong enough to like handle our own problems, handle other people's, manage our reactions to their problems and the drama and the fucking, some people in our business, they're emotionally manipulative and they try to get a reaction out of you. And it's like, you got to be able to defend against that and put, manage it. Sometimes that means maybe not being responsive because you're like, I'm not even going to try to play this fucking game with them because that's where they live all the time and I don't need to be weighted down with like a fucking weight dragging me backward. Like, fuck that, or an anchor, like trying to anchor me in a bad place. So, thank you, Red Bull, for giving me wings, for keeping me like fucking my train of thought in a good place during this podcast. I think we did a great fight recap. It was a lot of fun. And, So I guess we'll see when the next card is. And is there anything you want to add? Because otherwise I'm just going to the outro.
That's all I got, man. So go right ahead.
All right. Well, thank you everybody out there for listening. I say that, we don't control the world's resources. We don't control, as a people, I don't control, gas or oil or fucking lithium or any of that. But one of the most powerful resources that we have that nobody can take away from us is kindness. It's one of the most powerful resources in the world. It is a universal language, and it will allow you to get along with people of every race, color, and background. You could be speaking to somebody who doesn't even really understand English, but if you're smiling while you say it and you do it in a way that your intent is clear, they'll know what you're talking about. And so kindness is free. I know that we've been stuck in this weird place as a people after COVID of just, keeping distance and keeping focused on, health, safety, and all that. But as that fades along and we've kind of been past the point where people are infected and, we've all gotten vaxxed the fuck out, be kind and be good, because good people make each other good. Emotions, every single one of them are contagious, whether it's happiness, anger, fear, anxiety, they're all contagious. So try to pick the best ones and display them out there, and be good to yourself so that you can be good to other people. So caring for others starts with self-care, that you're fit and able mentally and physically to help other people out and recharge your batteries. And, thank you for listening to the Blessed Life University podcast. May truth and reason prevail. We love you, and tune in next time. Peace out.
Peace.